I live off Monroe Road in Charlotte, in an apartment that hears the last flights of the night like whale song. I'm 40, divorced in everything but paperwork, and I work local control in the tower at CLT Charlotte Douglas International. Officially, I'm an air traffic control specialist. Practically, I'm the guy who decides when metal moves. My mother still says I wave planes in, which makes me picture a bright vest and a light-up baton. The real baton is my voice. It has to be calm even when the weather is not. If you've never stood a midnight shift in a tower cab, you don't know how big a city can feel and how small your job can make it. The runways slice the dark into rules. In the glass, you can see your reflection and the streak of taxi lights threading the field. We have ground radar ASDX that paints little green caterpillars where airplanes actually are, which, in rain, matters more than where they said they'd be. The strip bay holds paper you can touch so you won't forget the thing the computer will forget for you. The headset keeps you married to strangers with call signs for last names. There's coffee you should stop drinking and a chair you should stop trusting. There are habits that will save you and habits that will try to kill you the minute you worship them more than you watch outside. We had low IFR that night. Ceiling scraping the antennae, RVR fluctuating between maybe and don't. It was the kind of fog that slides in under doors, the kind that finds your ankles and climbs. The airport went into SMGCS, low-vis taxi procedures, which turns movement into choreography you'd be an idiot to improvise. We were on the North Flow. Arrivals to 2-3 and departures to 1-8. I was working local North, my partner Kelly on local South, Mia on ground, and a trainee on local assist while his OJTI snapped at him in whispers that weren't as private as he thought. I tracked time in .9s, the decimal before cleared to land. Charlotte Tower, Frontier 187, ILS 23 right, established. Frontier 187, Charlotte Tower, wind calm, runway 23 right, continue, your number 2 following a heavy 7-mile final. Continue is a promise you can break. Cleared is a vow. We had an MD-88 rolling on 1-8 left, a lazy sausage of an airplane with a voice like a smoker. We had a regional jet on a 5-mile final to 2-3 right, and the FedEx Heavy on the parallel because cargo loves midnight. The ground radar was hazing, dropping targets like a bad memory, and the fog made lights into opinions. Personal details. I'd slept 4 hours that day because my ex texted at noon about our son, Ezra, and his big feelings at school when the class hamster died. Ezra is 8 and convinced airplanes sleep in hangars the way hamsters sleep in wood shavings. I told him we tuck them in. I told him I would call him after my shift. I told myself I would drink water instead of coffee. I lied twice. At 0:41, the first misshapen piece of the night slid into place. Ground taxied a regional to hold short at Kilo for 2-3 right. Hold short is a lullaby you sing to a pilot's feet. They read back correctly. They stopped on the ASDX like a good student. Then the trace fuzzed, and when it sharpened, the caterpillar had crawled past the hold bar like a dog sniffing the curb. Out the window, the fog made the taxiway lights into a string of blue pearls smeared by the finger of God. I keyed up. Endeavor 3426, hold position. Holding, they said, in the tone of a man who didn't know he was already wrong. The FedEx Heavy checked in a dot from the marker. FedEx 730, Charlotte Tower, runway 23 left, cleared to land. Kelly took that one, smooth as a song. I had the RJ at 5 miles. Endeavor 5887, runway 23 right, cleared to land. Cleared to land 23 right. They parroted back, professional and blind to the fact that on Kilo, another Endeavor had rolled a nose wheel into a future no one wanted. Work long enough and you learn which worry to feed. Pilots read back right words on wrong airplanes all the time. We strip marry the phraseology to the call sign and hope nobody cheats. The ground radar coughed again. The MD-88, cleared for takeoff on 1-8 left. Read the clearance back. I felt the itch you get before a sneeze. MD Charter 987. Cancel takeoff clearance. The captain's voice paused. You can hear thinking if you've done this long enough. Canceling takeoff clearance. 987. Kelly shot me a glance. The kind of glance you reserve for marriages and towers. I reached for the RJ on final. Endeavor 5887 go around. Fly runway heading. Maintain 3000. Silence. The frequency 8 half a second and then spit back two voices at once. Going around 5887. Confirm that's for Endeavor 3426? The wrong Endeavor, the one kissing the hold bar. In the glass I caught my face. Pale, eyes too wide, headset askew, and hated it. Endeavor 3426, hold position. Endeavor 5887. Go around now. Kelly keyed up to the FedEx. FedEx 730, caution vehicle and possible errant aircraft on the parallel. Continue, report runway in sight. The regional on final flashed out of the fog at 300 feet like a ghost that believed in me more than I did. In the same breath, the SDX stuttered and lit the hold bar at Kilo with an orange blob occupying the little space where not dead lives. I said the words that belong to moments you're supposed to have trained for and never thought would require all of you. Cancel takeoff clearance, go around, stop, hold, and then the red of the runway status lights, RWSL, woke like a conscience. The MD-88's nose dipped as if obeying a submerged law. The RJ went around, engine howl scooping the guts out of my chest. The gap between numbers on a strip is measured in .9s. The space between living and not is less. After people ask if you were scared. Fear is a luxury with a long fuse. In the moment, your job is verbs. We taxied the errant RJ back behind the bar like a cat pretending it had meant to stop there. We sent the go-around to 3000 and handed them to approach with a heading. We let the FedEx settle, fat with good intentions, and I could almost feel the vibration in my teeth. Kelly looked at me without the headset for half a second, human to human. Then the board bloomed with the backlog, the departures we'd stepped on, the arrivals our caution had delayed, the silence in my own head where sleep should have gone. The supervisor came up. Supervisors always come up like weather fronts. Hands on the rail, voice at half volume, eyes making lists. What happened? Is never a question. It's an invitation to confess and a chance to record the confession. I walked him down the chain, hold short, creep, fog, radar hiccup, readback trap, the preemptive cancel on the MD-88. He nodded, said, good, and sent the assistant to pull the tapes. Policy is a hungry bird. It always returns to the nest at moments like these. We didn't shut the airport. We don't, for near misses so near you can spell them with your own breath. We kept running metal because that's the only way to prove the voice still works. An hour later, traffic thinned. The fog went from intimate to bored. Kelly went to the break room and cried into a sleeve and came back with makeup that had given up. I went to the men's room and splashed water on a face that was learning how not to be a hero on purpose. The post-incident machine clicked on-scene breathalyzer and oral fluid test clean. A just culture form that wants your brain in boxes. A preliminary debrief that feels like someone asking you to read a bedtime story of your own worst minute. Did you feel fatigued? Yes. Were you offered the opportunity to refuse overtime in the last 7 days? Yes. Did I? No. Were you influenced by external stressors? My son cried about a hamster. My ex wants to change weekends. My rent went up. My father left when I was 11 and I still close doors softly in case it matters. None of that fits in a checkbox. News travels inside the building at the speed of rumor and outside it at the speed of a tweet. By lunch, somebody's cousin had posted near crash at CLT, with audio ripped from LiveATC and comments full of sim pilots giving grades. I hate the internet partly because it is a mirror with opinions. The union rep texted to say, don't engage. I engaged with a bag of vending machine pretzels and an ache behind my left eye that felt like a small animal trying to chew its way out. I didn't go home after shift. Controllers aren't allowed to drive sometimes when the adrenaline debt comes due. I sat in the quiet room with the lights down and listened to my own breathing and tried to name the color of the fog. Kelly sat beside me and we traded half sentences. I thought, me too. The lights. Thank God for lights. We laughed the way you do when the thing you've been preventing for 10 years almost arrives and then decides to try another time slot. At 9 in the morning, I walked into my apartment and the washing machine beeped at me from across the room like a runway status light you can explain to no one. I slept for 30 minutes, woke with my hands clenched, and called Ezra. He asked if the planes were good. I lied to my own relief and said yes. He asked if he could visit the tower. I told him about rules and badges and the security office that hates joy. He said okay like kids do when they understand more than we tell them. The investigation was merciful and merciless. The FAA guys wore faces like tasteful tombstones. "We are grateful for your actions," one said. And the second sentence was, "Walk us through the timeline again. We listened to the tape." Hearing your own voice try to save you is like hearing your father call your name in a grocery store when you thought you were lost. The Endeavor captain with his nose past the hold bar sounded like the friend who swears he only had 2 drinks. The go-around sounded like a pledge. The cancel takeoff clearance sounded like the prayer they wrote on a card at my grandmother's church. We recommended more RWSL integration, better stop bar enforcement, a refresher with ground on read-back hear-back discipline in Lovis. We recommended cake for Kelly because she'd said caution in a way that saved everyone's paperwork from getting heavier. 3 days later, the pilot of the go-around called the tower and asked for me. He just wanted to say thanks, he said, in a voice still made of adrenaline and coffee. He said the fog had taken the distance away and the runway had appeared like a trick and my now had been in his bones before the autopilot could argue. He didn't sound mad. He sounded human. I hung up and cried and then did push-ups in the break room until my arms shook because grief and gratitude live in the same muscle group. Part 3. The thing about near misses is that they scratch an itch you didn't notice until someone draws blood. After I flinched at microwave beeps. I woke from dreams where I was working a combined position with radios in 4 languages and my strips dissolving into snow. I kept hearing my own voice say now, and wondering if there had been another syllable I'd swallowed that would have turned the RJ into an earlier go-around and the MD88 into just a boring paragraph in a log. My therapist, OPM approved, voice like a decent pillow said, "You can't rehearse rescues you already did." She assigned me the very grown-up task of eating real food before midnight shifts and the very childish one of writing a list on an index card I could tuck in the strip bay. What I control/what I don't. Staffing was what it had been for years. A game of musical chairs where the music is the hiring pipeline and the chairs are people who haven't burned out yet. We were short and pretending. We held more combined positions than made me comfortable. The trainee on local assist, who'd watched the night unwind, asked me over coffee how long it takes to stop hearing the go-around in your sleep. "I'll let you know," I said, and then told him the things no one told me. That fatigue makes language sticky. That you should write the runway assignment at the top of the strip in thick marker during Lovis because your mouth will betray you when your eyes get hungry. That you should drink water, not coffee, after midnight because your nervous system isn't an infinite runway. I volunteered for runway safety meetings I used to dodge. I sent memos no one asked for with subject lines like RWSL and hold short integrity during SMGCS and rapid init cancel SOP. Phraseology discipline because if I couldn't make the night not happen, I could at least put rails on the next one. The ops guys humored me. We reread the SMGCS maps with ground and painted 2 hold bars that had gone pink through use. We walked the intersection at Kilo with a measuring wheel and found a sign with a backlight 30% dimmer than spec. Maintenance fixed it in a day like a secret favor to my backbone. My ex came to a therapy session. We talked about Ezra and my job and the day I forgot to pick up a school project because I was drafting an email about stop bars. She said, not unkindly, "I need you to be his dad more than I need you to be the airport's dad." She was right. So I started leaving the tower at the tower in small ways. No live ATC after work. No more reading incident reports in bed. Yes to Saturday plane spotting with Ezra at the Overlook even if all I wanted was a dark room and nobody saying now. Plane spotting became church. We counted heavies and regional jets and the 1A350 that wears its nose like a smug grin. Ezra named them the way kids name things they can't yet own. He asked what line up and wait meant. I told him, "It's like holding hands with the runway but not running yet." He asked what cleared to land felt like from my side. I said, "It feels like giving a friend the go-ahead to come home." He asked if planes get sad when they go around. I said sometimes, and sometimes they're just wise. 2 months after the night, the Endeavor captain, the one who crept past the hold bar, sent a letter to the facility. He apologized, which pilots do less often than they should and more often than you'd think. He said he'd briefed the taxi plan and then the fog made the lights soft and the wheels lazy and he'd been thinking about his own kid and a colonoscopy he was putting off and yes, he read back hold short and thought he had. He closed with, "Thank you for catching it. I will hear hold position when I'm 70. I printed it and taped it inside my locker like a weird saint's card. The union asked me to speak at a fatigue summit. I stood in a hotel ballroom under a chandelier that looked like a frost pattern and talked about microsleeps and .9s and dads and hamsters and how the fog makes you honest. I said, we need more of us. I said, we need the equipment to work when the weather laughs. I said, our brains are meat. Treat them like a system with limits. Afterwards, a controller from a center I won't name hugged me like a brother and whispered, "Thanks for saying meat." We laughed. Then we sat at the hotel bar and traded stories we won't tell civilians because pride wears a uniform and also shame does. Kelly and I bought a cake. On it, in blue icing, the baker wrote, "Good catch," in letters a little too cheerful for the theme. We cut it in the break room and ate it standing up while Ground argued with a tug driver about crossing the parallels without permission. "I wish this job didn't need cake," Kelly said through a mouthful of sugar. I said, "I wish the cake tasted like rest. There's a year after quiet people don't warn you about." When the anniversary rolled around, I was on Local South, a sunny day that made the concrete look smug. The traffic was heavy but civilized. We had a line of departures waiting like churchgoers. Ezra had outgrown hamsters as a concept and learned to say airspeed alive in a voice he thinks sounds like me. My ex and I had discovered the truce of exact pickup times and a shared Google Doc called Field Trip Money. My therapist had moved me from weekly to call when the microwave beeps wrong. Life, for a minute, looked like a procedural approach in VMC. The airport installed more runway status lights. We started using stop bars during SMGCS again like a religion. The sign at Kilo glowed like it meant it. I took on a trainee for local, not the one who watched that night, a new one with eyelashes a model would envy and a pen that never stopped. "Say the runway every time," I told him. "Say the call sign every time. Point at your strip like it's a contract. Look outside until your eyes water." He asked if the job still scared me. "Some days," I said. "Those are the good days." We added a quick turn phrase to the SOP. Confirm hold short, Kilo, 23 right, lights red. Pilots rolled their eyes and then repeated it back like a spell. I started requiring runway heading in every go-around clearance, even on the parallels, because when panic shows up, it steals nouns first. In the cab, I taped my index card under the strip bay where my hand could find it. Control, voice, timing, confirmation, not fog, radar, other people's feet. Kelly called it my religion. I called it my plane of focus. We're both right. On a Saturday, Ezra and I went to the Overlook with Bojangles biscuits and a notebook. He wrote call signs with a seriousness I wish doubled as retirement savings. A 747 freighter lifted off, heavy and determined, and the shockwave rolled our car like a laugh. Ezra asked if the pilots could hear me when I'm not at work. I said no, and also sometimes I think I hear them when I'm not. He asked if that's bad. I said it's honest. We drove past the tower on the way home, the glass catching sun like a lighthouse. I told him if he still wanted to visit when he turned 12, we could do the paperwork dance. He asked, "Will you still be there?" The question sat on my heart like a sleeping cat. This job chews people. The shifts grind. The budget whispers no. The political jokes shrug cynical. I told him the truth I had that day. I want to be. In August, a thunderstorm squatted on the field and wrote its own notum in lightning. Visibility dropped from postcard to myth. We were back in the soup, the radar kindergarten finger painting the airport in greens, reds, then nothing. A Southwest lined up on 2-3 left. An American on the parallel said, "We lost the centerline lights for a second." Ground was holding a caravan of de-ice trucks with drivers who wanted to be home. The itch came back. But this time it felt like an old friend I could nod to without inviting in. And RJ read back a clearance that belonged to his neighbor. I heard the vowel wrongness and stopped him. Negative, that was for the company traffic. Endeavor 1932, hold short 23 right. The captain exhaled into the mic. "Holding short 23 right," he said. Thanks for the catch, the other captain added. Small. Human. The kind of thing that doesn't show up in reports unless you are the person who sleeps or doesn't because of it. The storm moved. We resumed an ordinary that never is. I drove home through wet streets and held the wheel with both hands like a sensible man. Ezra's drawing of the tower hangs on my fridge. A square with a glass hat and me inside as a stick figure saying now in a cartoon bubble. I'm trying to teach him that now is a word you save for when it counts and a word you forgive yourself for not saying sooner if the world still gave you the chance. Here's my list, no moral, just my index card after a year, smudged with coffee and something like relief. Say the runway. Say the call sign. Verify the hold. Cancel early if your gut speaks. It has a better radar. RWSL is not decoration. Hearback is as sacred as readback. Fatigue is weather. Plan for it. Water is better than bravado at 3 a.m. Don't be a hero. Be boring. Choose verbs over fear. Teach the trainee the part about hamsters and dads. Call your kid before the shift if you can. Forgive the near miss by building the next prevention into your mouth. I am a man in Charlotte who talks for a living so other people can go where they're going. On good nights, the fog minds its business and the runway lights are little beads you string together with clearances. On the worst night, I earned my small cake and my big sleep. On most nights, I sit in a glass room, count to .9, and tell metal and people gently and exactly how to live.